can you become an interior designer without a degree? Although a lot of people do get degrees to become interior designers, you don't need to get a degree in 99% of cases. So the most important thing about becoming an interior designer is the practical experience. And this is something that most people forget, that even people with degrees need practical experience in order to become successful interior designers. So how do you get this practical experience? I think this is probably the biggest, like the chicken and the egg of the industry, because no matter whether you have a degree or not, you still need experience. And having a degree doesn't necessarily make it any easier to get experience in the industry. So the thing is, yes, it is possible to become an interior designer without a degree, and that is the path. It will be getting the experience, because that is really what both people with degrees or without degrees still need. It's and there's a whole another path, even though the majority of people who are working in like large design firms have degrees. They would rarely ever have gotten a position without any previous experience. So unless they were hand chosen or they knew somebody, which is, an unfortunate thing of the industry. It's really, you'll find that unless you already know someone or somebody's gotten you a position, it can be a bit clicky in that way. And that is the frustrating part. But if you can get your own experience by undertaking your own projects, this is the clearest and easiest way to get into the industry. And obviously, taking on projects requires a certain amount of skill. So when you have a degree, you can prove with a certificate, kind of, that you have a level of skill. This is why also most people expect you to have a portfolio when you're trying to get a job with a degree, and without a degree. But the emphasis is on showing skills that are useful. The problem with a lot of portfolios is that they're showing skills that aren't useful. So if you are trying to get or become an interior designer without a degree, you still need to have a certain amount of skill to show that you can actually do the job of an interior designer. So what kind of skills are these? Well, the skills that you will need are being able to design, being able to usually communicate design. So how do you do that? Well, there's a certain professional way that we present information, which is usually drawing, FF&E schedules. So there's certain types of information, specifications, drawings, communicating even just by words, written language. So creating presentations is a very, very big part of being an interior designer and communicating. But a lot of the time, we're not actually taught to do that at university. We're taught to create we're usually taught design, and design, even though what a lot of interior design degrees and architecture degrees are very criticized about, is that they often teach you the creative aspect of being an interior designer, which is the real fun part. Like, I loved my degrees. I had the best time doing my degrees, but was that what that got me a position? No. What got me a position was that I, outside of university, went and did work. So I worked on projects. I said yes to everything. I basically went and found projects that got me hired. And then once I graduated, I had not only my portfolio from university, I also had this long list of practical experience that no one else had. So it meant that I was very easily employed, and that meant that I was the chosen person over like hundreds of other applicants when they just had, the piece of paper from university. And also, funnily enough, someone that I know who had no degree was equally as employable as I was, because she had fantastic practical experience, and that came from her own working on her own developments. So the degree is, it's not actually the necessary element. The necessary element to becoming to a successful practicing interior designer is really the work experience, alongside practical skills. So I'm an architect, I'm an interior designer. I also run a mentorship program that has that teaches practical skills for interior design. So if you're interested in learning practical skills for interior design, have a look at our mentorship options. That's what I do. But those practical skills don't, just because you've got a degree, doesn't necessarily mean that that is something that you're naturally going to get in a design degree. And often that is the criticism, is that interior designers go through these degrees and come out without any skills. So you might have paid a lot of money for an interior design degree and not have any skills that are employable at the end of it, which is a harsh criticism about the design degree industry, because it is a very it's an industry. So you're going to want to make sure that if you are coming down the path of not having an interior design degree, that you've got the skills. How do you find out about those skills? Have a look at our mentorship. It's very, very it's very, very clear about what it is that you need. You need to know how to draw, communicate. You need to know how to write specifications. You need to know how to design. So those very, very basic things. And also you need certain skills that are going to stand you apart from other designers. And that is really the key. That's why you want a mentor who actually can pick these things about you and then help you kind of stand out from the crowd. Whether you're going to want to work with clients or get hired by a firm. So it's this kind of same recipe. It's just what you present is going to be different. If you haven't seen my video on portfolios for interior designers and architects, have a look at that, because just fast forward to the part of the video that you need, because either you're going to be a graduate from an interior design graduate who wants to find their first job. You're going to want to work with you're going to either be somebody who is going to be getting into like a better position after having your first position or a different position, and then also working with clients. These are kind of three different people who are wanting to kind of get the same thing or end result, but you've got to go about it differently in different ways. So yes, you can become an interior designer without a degree, but there are certain things you also need to check. You need to check in the area that you're going to be working in. You need to check what the rules and regulations are. Don't be afraid by this. And there's a lot of mismatched information out there created by regulatory bodies who sometimes have zero authority to even say these things. But one thing you should do is actually check my other video on I think it was called why I can't call myself an interior designer. So it's about the laws about practice and title acts. So have a look at research practice and title acts. We've actually got a blog post on this as well that goes into greater detail about understanding the laws if they apply, and they're very rare. So they are rare, but you still need to know about it. And I think this is something you need to just be aware of when you're an interior designer that is trying to become someone in the industry that is going to, go a different path, because these are things that actually they should even teach you at design school, but they don't, because there are lots of interior designers who come out who have done, for example, interior architecture degrees, and then they don't realize that they can't call themselves interior architects. So the degree doesn't actually give you all of the knowledge or the skills that you would expect them to give you. But I suppose that's just the crux of the industry. So check the requirements that in your area, and I think that is really, really key. You've also got, if you want to have a look at some of the kind of more practical skills of becoming an interior designer, have a look at our InterDesign platform. We actually teach practical skills to help you become an interior designer who has the skills, the practical skills to work in the industry. So that could help you not only if you're doing this alone, because I think that's the other real issue. If you are trying to become an interior designer without a degree, you end up feeling alone, because there's not a lot of, you haven't made any friends because you're trying to do it alone, and you haven't got that support network that you create. I mean, I'm still, like, some of my bestest friends in the world are still friends from university that I studied with, because they get me. So if you want a community, if you're looking for a community of other interior designers who are doing the same thing as you, come and have a look at our interior design and mentorship platforms, because being part of a design community is going to help you succeed, because you've got that support there, even if it's just getting, or just the feeling of having others around you. It's going to help you succeed. And I promise you, that is the one thing that every single successful interior designer had. They had someone there to support them, whether that was like emotionally through the process, someone who was still interested in what they were doing. They were doing it together. No one ever does it on their own. So remember, if you want help to become an interior designer, doing it not the regular way, and this is usually what happens if you're somebody who is trying to change careers into interior design later in life, once you've already started. So, or if an interior design degree is just not an option for you, which is totally understandable, because it's not an option for many or most. So because design degrees are very, very expensive, which is crazy because they're not even that useful. So I'm an architect, I'm an interior designer. Have a look at our mentorship platform, and know that if you want to become an interior designer without a degree, it's possible for you too.